Get in, loser. We're going hybrid retooling, whatever the hell that means. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studios. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. My name is David Quadrelli. I am joined by Harmon Dial. Harm, are you a Seinfeld fan? Like, do you watch Seinfeld? Scale
No,
1
never
to 10.
really watched it.
You never watched it?
No.
Are you familiar with Festivus?
Heard of it, but don't exactly know what it is.
All right. I don't know, Jacob. We're gonna have to save it for anyone else. We're gonna tell Harmon all about Festivus because today is Festivus and it's the airing of grievances. We'll do that in anyone else, but we've got a busy show today, believe it or not. Jeff Paterson's gonna join us. We're gonna talk about the quote heard around the world, or the Lower Mainland at least. Patrik Allvin speaking on last night's prime Monday Night Hockey broadcast. And dropping a new phrase, a new fun phrase. And we're going to talk about that. And yes, I am wearing the tie. I'm also wearing my bedazzled Santa hat. Shout out to my wife. She just found this. Like we hadn't found it all year. And I wore it last year, but I couldn't find it this year. So she found it and I'm wearing it today.
Can I ask why the dress shirt and tie as well? Wouldn't the hat alone have been enough?
Yeah, probably. I don't know, but I don't know, man. Like I had to wear. I got this Christmas tie. I only got to wear it once. I wore it to the December 5th game against Utah because that was my only home game of the month before Christmas. And I mean, the Canucks did their Christmas game on December 11th versus Buffalo. Like their Christmas game was, so I had to jump at every opportunity to wear this bad boy. And today is another opportunity to wear it.
I didn't get the memo. I hop on StreamYard about a minute before we're going live, and I see Quan's decked out in this outfit. Meanwhile, I'm wearing the most normal clothes ever.
Okay, what would you have worn if I had given you a heads up? You don't know anything Christmassy.
I might have a hat. Santa hat.
Might have a hat. Might have a hat. My goodness. T. Rogers in the chat said it's a hybrid outfit. So you need both. Well done. I like that. That's a good comment, T. Rogers. Appreciate that. If you want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show, hit us with a super chat. Proceeds from our super chat go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Nick Pocek said too much Xmas per 60 for harm. S. Little Boston said it's never too much. Look, man, I think if I was wearing this a week ago, I think it's fair to criticize. Like, I know neither of us have ever worked in an office, but it's like that guy in the office who shows up and he's wearing a Santa hat all month long. It's like, all right, buddy, relax. Like, it's not that fun. Chill out, okay? Are you 12 years old? Me, on the other hand, it's okay that I wear this
because you are 12 years old.
Well, not only that, but it's Christmas Eve, man. It's Christmas Eve. Two references to old sitcoms. All right. Let's get to last night's game, Harm. Let's get to it. The Canucks lose to the Philadelphia Flyers by a final score of 5-2. Now, the first 40 minutes were extremely boring. I blamed it on Rick Tocchet. Was I onto something there?
I didn't think it was boring. I actually thought the Flyers are more entertaining and skilled offensively and quicker than I actually imagined them to be.
Okay.
They had legitimate juice offensively. It was maybe boring from a Canucks perspective where they got outplayed, but the game itself wasn't. I didn't think it was a slog to watch.
I thought it was pretty boring. I'm not gonna lie. The first 40 minutes, like even the Flyers, like a lot of their shots were deflections and point shots, which again, that's Rick Tocchet. But I was just looking at it and thinking to myself, like, this is just a lot of broken plays, a lot of. Like, if you counted, which I did at one point, count the number of passes that got completed before a shot attempt or a turnover in possession, before an event in the game, nobody could get over 2. Like, it was 2 passes and then a shot from the point or what. I don't know. I thought it was boring. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I had a lot of fun watching Trevor Zegras, for example, watching him enter the zone, make plays where he's using his edges to create space for himself, zipping the puck east-west. You saw some east-west passes from a Rick Tocchet team. And like, it was fun watching Tippett. Even before he took over in the third period, you would still see the occasional dashes from him where he's just flying up the ice. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not as if I'm not trying to say the Flyers are oozing with speed and skill. But when I look at them on paper and just the expectations of what a Rick Tocchet team looks like, and even watching the Flyers earlier this season, I was actually pleasantly surprised by how much juice they had offensively. And no, don't get me wrong, they weren't flying around the ice like the Colorado Avalanche or Edmonton Oilers, but it wasn't just point shots. I actually thought their in-zone offensive strategy, they were working the cycle down low. A lot of jam plays too, where they're taking the puck to the net. And this is a big difference too. Maybe one of the biggest ones compared to, let's say, watching the Canucks of last year. Flyers D joining the rush very consistently. And even in zone, you would see a guy like Cam York end up in the high slot area for a scoring chance, or Drysdale joining, Sanheim joining. I thought their defensemen actually had a green light to be involved offensively. And I thought it was a lot different than, let's say, the Canucks of last year, where it was just funnel pucks, low to high, point shot. Don't get me wrong, there was still a lot of that, but there were other elements to Philadelphia's attack. And so me personally, I actually wasn't as bored watching that game as I thought I might be.
I was specifically talking about the first 40 minutes. I don't know if I said that, and I apologize if I misspoke, but I was only talking about the first 40 minutes being an absolute snooze fest. And then I thought the Flyers came alive in the third, and Thatcher Demko made some great saves. That's when it got entertaining to me. But as a whole, I just thought it was a snooze fest to start. And I wrote that in instant reaction.
I'm curious what the chat thinks, because I thought the Flyers were creating like proper chances throughout the entire game. And part of the reason they broke through in the third is, or part of the reason why they hadn't blown the game wide open in the first 40 minutes is just because Thatcher Demko was a brick wall.
And that's very fair. And Thatcher Demko was the story of this game from a Canucks perspective. He kind of got hung out to dry a little bit there in the third period. Now, again, it's a young defenseman in Zeev Buium. You knew there was going to be defensive mistakes, but him not boxing out on, I think it was the third Flyers goal, that was one where you were just like, okay, he's going to learn. He's going to learn on that one. But again, as I pointed out before, Marcus Paterson fails to box out sometimes. Tyler Myers fails to box out sometimes. Like, if you're going to have mistakes, at least have it come from an exciting young player who you know is going to get better and learn from those things. I don't know. That is just me going back to what I was saying earlier. But all in all, again, it was a really strong performance from the Philadelphia Flyers. I thought it was boring. Maybe Jeff's here. Jeff will come on soon and tell me if he agrees or disagrees. I thought it was boring through 40 minutes, but a really entertaining third period. Didn't like speaking of Buium, didn't like Michkov kind of not slew footing him, but just accidentally on purpose bumping. He knows what he's doing. Like, people, oh, it's an accident. It's not an accident. He knew what he was doing. I would have liked to see some response on that. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. It feels like we took very different things from this game. Did you notice what I'm talking about?
No, I don't even think I caught that.
Okay, well, it's funny that these are my talking points, and this is what I have written down. Boring game, didn't like Michkov on Buium. What happened was toward the end of the game, Michkov through the neutral zone comes up behind Buium. Buium is nowhere near the puck, doesn't know that Michkov's coming, and he accidentally on purpose just kind of hits him, takes out his knee. Not the exact same thing that happened to Bo Horvat, but similar, where it could end really, really badly. And Buium went down. I think he even missed a couple shifts after that. Of course, he assisted on the Drew O'Connor goal, so he was okay in the end, which is good to hear. Now they've got a bit of a break. You hope it's nothing wrong with Buium, but I just think, like, young kid, new team. I don't know. Maybe the Wild stick up for him. You think of all the guys on the Wild, Marcus Foligno, Ryan Hartman, those guys. Maybe they stick up for him. Didn't happen from the Canucks. I don't know. It's not my biggest takeaway, but it's one of them that I had written down. It's funny that you don't even know what I'm talking about. Hopefully Jeff does, but
Jeff does, because he talked about it on Rinkwide last night. And funny enough, Quads, he used that exact same phrase. It wasn't my biggest takeaway from this game, but
it was a takeaway.
But it was a takeaway, yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, we can bring in Jeff soon. Harm, anything else that you wanted to get to from the game? Oh, we got to talk about the hybrid retool thing.
Yeah, the hybrid. I'm just excited to see how many new terms we can see the Canucks rattle off for what this is. We've heard team in a transition, the hybrid retool, the quote somewhat of a rebuild from Jim Rutherford. Should we guess what might come next? Like, I like a term that I think they should use is a competitive rebuild. Have they used that one before?
Oh, I like that. That
a competitive rebuild, right?
Yeah.
It appeals to both sides. It appeals to ownership. It appeals to the fans. I just think there's too much history with the retool word to be throwing that around. So I think if I was them and I couldn't just outright call it a regular rebuild, I'd be calling it a competitive rebuild.
Be here for the competitive rebuild. You could sell tickets with that. I like that.
But so Allvin coming out and the label will obviously stand out.
We have the
But to
clip.
me-
Do you want to hear the clip first?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, Jacob, let's play the clip. This is Patrik Allvin on the intermission panel last night using a new term that we're all very excited about.
And we felt that the package that Minnesota came up with the younger players, and it gives us a chance to take a step back here and retool it a little bit with a hybrid form and getting two young 20s.
You get the idea. Yeah.
Well,
Hybrid
the
retool.
the issue and part of the reason why I think so many different terms get tossed around is because there isn't a very clear, obvious distinction sometimes between rebuilding and retooling, right? If you were to define and clearly lay out the differences, people will have different definitions of what a rebuild is around the league. And trust me, I've had conversations with executives on different teams. A rebuild to one manager, it looks very different in terms of the actual actions and behaviors of that team compared to what a different manager on a different team thinks a quote unquote rebuild is, right? There isn't a universal, very clear definition sometimes of what a rebuild is. And it's difficult sometimes to classify what certain teams are going through. Like, what would you call, and I actually think we can discuss the Flyers as part of this. What would you call what the Flyers are doing?
A retool.
Yeah, they've also sold off player. It's somewhere in between a retool and a rebuild. That's the point. And I think that's the takeaway in terms of even when Rutherford was branding it a rebuild, what did we say? We said, let's pay attention to the actual actions, not the words. I think the main takeaway for Canucks fans is that they're targeting something in between a rebuild and a retool. And the exact term doesn't matter, but the point being, they, as an organization, are okay with bottoming out this year and landing a top pick and actually view that as an important accelerant for turning things around. They're not going to fully tear it down to the studs. I don't think, have an appetite to tank beyond this year. And I'm not confident that they're I think they're going to sell their pending UFAs, but I don't anticipate or expect them to sell most of their veterans that have significant term left. So sure. I think those are that's I think the rough outline of their plan. And broadly speaking, they don't have a preference necessarily of draft picks over, let's say, they just want any assets generally that are 25 and under, whether it be draft picks, whether it be prospects, whether it be NHL ready players in their early 20s. What I just described is the rough outline of their plan, at least based on the conversations I've had with people in the front office. And then whatever you want to define it, whether you want to call it a hybrid retool or somewhat of a rebuild, you can slap whatever term you want on it. But even when Rutherford was describing this as a rebuild, what I outlined in terms of their actual plan doesn't actually resonate with a full traditional tear it down rebuild. And we've known that.
Okay, we've known that, but I also think it matters that the word rebuild was used last week, and now after 4 wins is a different phrase. Do you buy what I'm selling here? That this does actually matter, and that it's what we were saying we were worried about, is that they're building toward the mushy middle again. Like, does this not scream Benning era to you?
A little bit, but I had those same concerns even before Allvin called it a hybrid retool.
Yeah, but now we've heard it. Like, they at least they used the word rebuild, which everybody was stoked about. The owner was on board with the rebuild. Everybody's all excited about that. And now we're throwing four wins. We're throwing out hybrid retool. We're throwing out new terms to basically just mean we're going to build kind of half-assed a little bit here and try to go for that 14th spot. We'd love to be 14th every year. We're going to build a consistent 14th place team that maybe can end up in the top of the league.
I fully understand that concern. But again, even going back to last week, I wrote a piece reported based on conversations with people within the organization around what do the next steps for the Canucks actually look like? What does a quote unquote rebuild actually look like? the exact same concerns existed. The whole point was they're aiming for a 2 or 3 year turnaround. And so to me, whether you want to slap rebuild on it, you want to slap hybrid retool on it, it doesn't matter. The label doesn't matter. To me, it's the actions. And even before Allvin called it a hybrid retool, I anticipated their rebuild to not actually look like a traditional rebuild. Does that make sense?
That's great. Yeah, that's great that you were prepared for it, Harm. Not everybody.
Well, we were also talking about it on the show, and I think most people in the back of their minds had that concern anyway.
Concern, exactly. Concern. And now it's actually happening.
It's amplified.
Like,
it's amplified.
So how fast are they going to accelerate out of this, Harm?
That's a good question. I don't entirely know.
We were just talking about how much of a worry that is. And look, like this idea, this thinking, this thought process, call it whatever you want. This idea that they're going with is what cost them Quinn Hughes. Like, make no mistake about it. They didn't have money to sign him to 8 years at the time. We just wrote a really, really good piece about this over at CanucksArmy.com. Ron L. Siedelbauer wrote that over at Canucks Army. You can go find it. How the Canucks decide refusal to embrace a rebuild eventually cost them Quinn Hughes. Go over stuff all over the years, but like, we're just gonna sit here and say, well, just because this is what we thought they were gonna do, and now it's what they're doing, and now it's what they're saying, that whatever, you just put your hands up. Like, no, we have an example of this not working in this market, and I know this management regime wasn't here for that, but that is what cost them Quinn Hughes, was this refusal to just rebuild and just have a little more pain. Like, Harm, it goes back to what I was saying. A hybrid retool is, okay, we're going to try to be bad this year, but if we aren't, because we just went on a 4-game heater, thanks for coming out. If we're not bad this year, we're okay with the 9th overall pick, the 10th overall pick, and then we've got that Minnesota pick in the 20s, and then maybe we'll keep our first-round pick next year, unless those young guys are playing super well up to the deadline. Not only are we not going to sell anything, we're actually going to be buyers, and we're going to get rid of that first-round pick because we need to add to this group. And hey, maybe it won't be for rentals, but maybe it's just for a young player, 25 years old, 26 years old. You're just ending up where you were when you accelerated out and traded a first-round pick for JT Miller, which I might add, you got a 99th percentile outcome. The dude was a winger, became a center, put up 100 points for you, and it still wasn't enough. So are we really going to just sit here and say, well, because we didn't think they were actually going to do it, it's fine? And I know it's hard to take me serious wearing a bejeweled Santa hat, but come on.
I fully understand that frustration. And I also hear a lot of people saying, well, rebuilds don't guarantee you anything. Yeah, but you know what not rebuilding guarantees you? Mediocrity.
Yeah.
Right? That's like somebody coming up to a fitness expert and saying, hey, I want to get a 6-pack. Does working out guarantee me a 6-pack? And the fitness expert going, well, no, working out doesn't guarantee you a 6-pack. And as soon as the person hears that, they go, la, 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 I'm not even going to work out then. Well, then you know what not working out guarantees? It guarantees that you're never going to get a 6-pack. Now, with that kind of analogy, the point being, all right, yeah, you have to work out. You also have to nail other things. Yeah, it's not a guarantee that working out on its own is going to get you a 6-pack. You also need to follow the right diet. You also need to sleep properly. You also need to make sure you're on the right program and that you're disciplined in all facets of life. And then, then that's how you're going to get a 6-pack. I understand that. But people who are saying, oh, well, rebuilds don't guarantee you anything are the equivalent of saying, well, I want a 6-pack, but working out alone doesn't guarantee me a 6-pack. So I'm just going to lay on the couch and eat potato chips all day. Well, the alternative the alternative is worse. Why not give yourself the best chance?
Great analogy, Harm. Really, really good analogy. And yeah, basically what I'm getting at is I just don't want us to get in this mindset of, well, this is how it's going to be. This is what they're going to do. So we can't say boo. Last week, I literally said, this is starting to feel like the plan is just, if we're bad next year, then we're rebuilding. If we're good, the rebuild's over. It took 4 wins to get to, if we're good, the rebuild's over. And there's some hyperbole in there, but we are seriously trending toward that. What I was kind of saying in jest last week about if they're good, then the rebuild's over. I was kind of saying that as a bit of a joke. Like, that's actually what it seems like is going to happen. And there's people in the chat saying, well, they're not worrying about being competitive next year. Yeah, they're probably not going to go out and sign a 30-year-old free agent in the offseason. That's great, but you need to do more than that. You can't just head into the year and then say, well, if we're good, we're good, and the rebuild's over and we're ready to accelerate out of it. Like, that's what got you here. Are we not remembering that?
Yeah, and the Canucks are in a position where maybe it doesn't need to happen mid-season, but I look at the number of veterans they have with term left on their deals. And to me, yeah, I understand that you have a lot of young players, so you want some of them to be surrounded by experienced NHLers that can show them the way, particularly on the blue line when you're already integrating 3 young defensemen in Booyah and Villander and DPD. But that doesn't mean you have to keep everybody, right? When you look at, for example, DeBrusque, Besser, Garland, in my opinion anyway, at least one of them should be moved for future assets. You shouldn't need to hang on to all of them. And I understand there are trade protections you need to work around and whatnot, but that we've seen players with no move clauses and that sort of stuff get moved in the past. Same thing on the back end. Do you need all 3 of Marcus Paterson, Philip Hronek, and Tyler Myers? Especially because this is an important point too. Look at Marcus Paterson, right? Now, maybe this is a moot point because all 3 of those guys have no move clauses. And if they tell you they don't want to move, fine. But at least have the conversation. I look at a Marcus Paterson and especially the age he's at, and now I think part of his decline this year is likely adjusting to a different system. But to me, he's a player that is likely past his prime, past his like absolute peak.
Yep.
And if you're not realistically going to contend for anything meaningful anytime soon, why not see if you can still, while his contract is still a positive value, move him for a significant price, especially because if the idea is we want a certain amount of experienced professionals to help guide our young defensemen, well, you can still find those guys in free agency, right? The San Jose Sharks, for example, were able to go out and get Dmitry Orlov, get John Klingberg, and on contracts where they're not having to overpay those guys on term. You can find number 4 or 5 defensemen to just plug in and eat minutes, somebody who's experienced. Those kinds of players are still going to be available in free agency, even with this rising cap. I think those are the types of moves that you want to see a rebuilding team pursue that I'm not convinced that this organization is actually going to consider, at least not yet anyway, because they seem to have a more accelerated timeline in mind.
All right, let's get to Jeff. But before that, we've got a few super chats to get to. I like these. These are some good ones. We're going to get to them. And sorry for keeping Jeff waiting. We're going to go along with Jeff, I'm sure. But Condones in the chat said, is Austin Matthews getting the Elias Pettersson treatment from last year? Yeah, not a good season so far for Austin Matthews. What do you think's been behind his struggles?
So James Myrtle and Dom Lucian wrote a great piece over at The Athletic where this honestly sounds a lot like the Elias Pettersson drop-off, where he's only got 23 points in 30 games. And people are going, what's wrong? They're trying to diagnose it. There's the same question mark of how much is an injury impacting him? How much is the coach of the system? How much of it is losing Mitch Marner? I think it's a combination of those factors where, yeah, a lot of Leafs fans have pointed to an injury he suffered against the Red Wings where he ran into the end boards. And since then, it's the same NHL edge stuff too, where Matthews' skating speed and shot power have fallen off pretty dramatically compared to his peak. So that has people wondering, all right, is he right physically? I think that's likely a factor. Part of it being maybe age-related decline, where he's 28 years old, and even though you see McKinnon and McDavid around the same age in their late 20s, about to be 30, still performing at an elite rate, historically superstars have their best offensive years between the ages of 23 to 28. This is statistical, not something that I'm just throwing out there willy-nilly. So part of it could be that. I think part of it is I just don't think Craig Berube and that system they're playing is a great fit for them. The Leafs don't possess the puck a lot. And I think for Matthews, who is such a lethal shooter, his team not having as much puck possession is an issue. I think part of it is, you lost Mitch Marner, and this year the line mates he's had aren't nearly as dynamic. Part of it is their power play has been horrific. there are a combination of factors, but just like the Elias Paterson conversation, there isn't a silver bullet. There isn't an obvious answer of, oh, this is the very clear thing that's ailing Matthews, and therefore if you just fix this one thing, he's going to bounce back. It's a mystery, just like it was for Paterson last year.
Another super chat. This one from Bill in the chat. Quads is channeling Hermie the Dentist, Elf from the TV classic Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Love and hugs. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you too. I've gotten that comparison before. And I used to have longer hair, and I used to have a little swoosh going. We used to have the bangs going, and I've gotten that comparison before. I was waiting for that. Good comparison.
I like that comp.
Yeah. All right, we've got one more super chat. It's from Nux for Cup. We appreciate the donation to the BC Mental Health Foundation. We're going to lead off anyone else with it, but we can't keep our man waiting any longer. Jeff Paterson. Jacob, I'll do the ad read at the end. Bring him in. We've made him wait for like 20 minutes here. He's just been watching us. Jeff Paterson joins us. Now, Jeff, there was a few things that I said during that I said, oh, I can't wait to hear what Jeff thinks about this. So we'll start with, before we get to the hybrid retool stuff, just your thoughts on last night's game.
Oh, first, I just want to ask why you're wearing the tie and the hat, but I know Harm already asked that, so we won't spend a whole lot of time on it. Harm's taking a page from my book, Good Dress and Festive, for the big occasion here. So I'm on Team Harm on this one. Look, a hybrid what was it? A retool of the hybrid form. I can't even get it straight. Honestly, I don't think that management truly understands what any of these definitions are. And I think that leaves them an out, right? Like they just keep coming up with terms. And at some point it's going to be, ta-da, this is the finished product. We told you it was a retool of the hybrid form. And so I think it leaves them an out. I think it leaves them just way too much ambiguity in terms of ultimately what it is that they're trying to do. They continue to talk about wanting to, build a championship contender. That's what Jim Rutherford was brought in to do when they cleared house in December of 2001. Jim Rutherford, and then shortly after Patrik Allvin, they were brought in to build the Vancouver Canucks into a championship contender. So while we're all getting hung up on the terminology being used, and I know you kind of went down this road a little bit a moment ago, but it's time now for this discussion about how the hell do they get from here to there? And with the scoring struggles of Brock Besser and Connor Garland and Jake DeBrusk, the three veterans that you just mentioned, all with term and some with significant trade protection, like what role do any of those guys play in what they're trying to put together here? And if you look at calendar year 2025, and I've got a piece up at Canucks Army talking about needing a return to some sort of form from any or all of those three. But if you look at 2025, they've now played 82 games. So essentially a season's worth. The top two scorers for the Vancouver Canucks in 2025 are defensemen. Brock Besser and Connor Garland are the highest scoring forwards over the past 12 months with 42 points apiece. Like, what are we doing here? And I get that you need centermen, and they particularly need centermen. And so absolutely, like that part of the argument carries water. But what role does Elias Pettersson, if he ever returns to the lineup? A 27-year-old Elias Pettersson, if he was an 80-point guy, yeah, you can see him driving the rebuild or the retool or whatever. But if he's a 55-point player now, moving forward for the rest of time, what role does he play in all of this? There is such a serious lack of elite-level talent. And I don't think I'm telling people things they don't know, but now it's a question of, all right, you can coin any phrase you want, but the heavy lifting is sort of sifting through what you've got, who is part of the solution here. And when you look at the layers below, like they can accumulate all these young players and they've started that process. But who are the elite difference makers when they get really good? Like Jonathan Lecker-Mackey's on a nice run again in Abbotsford, and I want to see him back with the National Hockey League team. But I don't know that you're building a Stanley Cup contender around Jonathan Lecker-Mackey. So, yeah, you should get something out of this draft. And they absolutely have to. There's no argument here. They have to hit on whatever pick they get at the top of this draft. But we've also seen in the last decade, Jake Virtanen, Olli Juolevi, Vasily Podkolzin, like there's no guarantees they've had top 10 drafts, and those guys have not panned out here. So, there's an element of luck. You obviously have to do your homework, but one player alone, like Macklin Celebrini is an incredible player. The guy's third in the league in scoring here as we hit Christmas. And he's got a 25-point lead on anybody else on his team in San Jose. Now, the Sharks have a supporting cast that's coming. But my point is the Canucks may get Gavin McKenna or somebody else that is that one elite piece, but they need like 5 of those guys. Go look at the Florida Panthers regular season scoring from last year en route to their second straight Stanley Cup. I think they have 6 guys with more than 45 points. And we're talking about the Canucks' top scorers over the last calendar year, the top forwards with 42 points. This is the issue to me. And so as much as we all want better hockey here, and I think in the big picture, we want to see the Vancouver Canucks win a Stanley Cup for this market, for these fans. But saying it doesn't make it happen. People have been saying it for 55 years. And so they can slap any label they want on the work that has to be done. Show me how that work's going to get done, I guess, is where I am. And how do you get from here? And if Chicago beats Philadelphia tonight, the Canucks will go into the holiday break dead last again in the National Hockey League. How do you get from here to there?
That was an awesome rant. Just have to, before I even lead into the next question, love that. Shifting to last night's game on the ice, what stood out to you about why the Canucks got dramatically outplayed against the Flyers after a run of 4 wins where, sure, the Canucks had some luck along the way with those wins, but they weren't outplayed nearly as dramatically during that stretch as they were last night against Philly.
Yeah, I mean, first things first, they weren't going to win them all. And so the 4 wins was kind of a nice turn of event. I think it allowed the new guys to settle in and feel like they were contributing. I think it allowed the veteran guys to, process the trading of a friend and the captain and realize that, okay, maybe these young guys are okay. So I just think organizationally, it's important to kind of get off on the right foot. And they did that. But the underlyings, as you know, are like for the road trip, the underlyings were not great for the Vancouver Canucks. You go through all the games, Zeev Boom's debut, puck goes in off Brendan Dillon. Evander Kane got that incredible pick from the linesman against the Rangers. We saw a David Kampf goal, something we haven't seen at any other point in his time as a Canuck. And then even Jeremy Swayman mishandles the puck behind the net on the power play goal in Boston. So there was really good fortune, as you went through this road trip. My concern is, though, they gave up 42 shots to the Boston Bruins and gave up 39 last night against the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, Thatcher Demko was incredible through those first 2 really boring periods that Quads alluded to earlier in the program. But Demko, again, it's almost too bad that the Canucks squandered that kind of goaltending performance. But yeah, I mean, the defensive zone coverage, the first goal, guy gets in behind Phil Hronek and is able to park himself in the top of the crease. Look, Phil Hronek's been the least of the Canucks' concerns. He's allowed an off night. I think he had an off night. He was on the ice for 4 of the 5 Flyer goals. I really didn't like the Grundstrom goal, though. And you watch the replay there. Hronek gets beat to the outside, and then there are basically 4 Canucks around 1 Flyer, and it's not like a bang-bang play. He gets his own rebound. He has time to, smack a second opportunity past Demko as 4 Canucks look on. Boom didn't look great on that play. And then the Dvorak goal that turns out to be the game winner off the end boards and the high stick and the review. But look where all 3 of those goals are scored, basically on the top of the blue paint, and nobody's doing anything about it. So where the Canucks had tightened up defensively, early in the road trip, even before the road trip, I don't know if it was that game before Christmas and they were feeling good about themselves with the 4 straight wins and whatever, they kind of got away from the things that allowed them to at least sort of settle things down through late November and into December. But that has to be a concern. The sheer volume of shots that they're giving up and then allowing guys to stand their ground and nobody seems to want to move a body. So overall, I mean, it's a very successful road trip. But 4-1, come on. And the fact that the wins were essentially, aided by good goaltending, but on the backs of a lot of the young guys and some of the new guys, That part's great. But again, it brings me back to what I just said a moment ago. Like, they're getting nothing from the top of the lineup, and I just don't know how or when that's expected to change. So, like, they can assemble a pretty solid bottom six. They've got lots of options. Höglander can't even get in the lineup right now. When Paterson gets activated, somebody else is going to have to go here. So there's going to be decisions, and I think difficult decisions. But it's not the bottom of the lineup that's the issue with this group. It is right up there in the top six. And quite frankly, it's hard to watch Brock Boeser right now. Like, I don't know if he's playing through something, but remember he had to go see the doctor about an appendix and took a morning skate off on the road trip. I have to believe that he's not 100%, but guess what? This season, now's the time, Brock, to just step away and say, I'm not feeling it. I'm going to cede my spot in the lineup to a younger player so we can watch him grow and develop. And I'm going to sit here on the sidelines. There's no point in there is no nobility in playing through any kind of injury this season when you are 31st or 32nd in the National Hockey League. Take your time as others have. So I still believe Brock Boeser is a better player than he has shown on this 11-game goal drought and 1-18. But boy, it's getting tough to watch right now because there's just nothing there in his game.
Jeff, people in the chat are calling that your last answer before that one a generational rant. Not to fire you back up again, but you heard our conversation about it too. And I ask you the same question I asked Harm. Does this not just feel like the Benning era again with the accelerating out of the rebuild too soon? First of all, they're accidentally bad. This was not a declaration that we're rebuilding from the organization. They're accidentally bad. They get some luck. They're hoping for some draft luck. We should say that. They're still hoping for that. They make the trade. They make the Hughes trade, and they like the pieces they got back. And now we're kind of already looking forward here. We're already looking to, okay, well, what's next year look like? What's the year after that look like? And it just feels like the rebuild was over, like in a flash. Does it not just feel like the Benning era to you as well?
Yeah, and I think that regime was guilty of overvaluing its players. And I do wonder here again, if they think that this is a quick and simple fix and transition, are they overvaluing what they've got? Like, I like a lot of what I've seen from Liam Ogren. Like, I think Liam Ogren can absolutely be a part of what they're trying to put together, but is he a frontline guy? Is he going to be one of the key components of the Vancouver Canucks when they are on the verge of contending for a Stanley Cup? I don't know, but I certainly want to see more of him. Marco Rossi, guys, had a 60-point season in the National Hockey League before the age of 25. I'm willing to give Marco Rossi opportunities, but guess what? In the absence of Elias Pettersson, I think even 5 games, and you might say, hey, small sample size, I think it's abundantly clear that Marco Rossi is not a 1C. Like, he got absolutely buried in Boston. Like, did you see the underlying numbers for Marco Rossi against the Boston Bruins the other night? They're asking too much, as they've asked too many guys already this season to play the middle. They need Elias Pettersson back. I want to see what they look like with Elias Pettersson and Marco Rossi in the lineup together. And your guess is as good as mine when we're going to see 40 back in the lineup, because that whole thing on the road trip was bizarre. And I would think I think Elias Pettersson, like, he was asked to do so much heavy lifting early in the season with no offensive support behind him. I would think he'd be excited to get an opportunity to play with Marco Rossi behind him in the lineup, and with the Canucks having a bunch of home games in the second half of the season where they can control matchups and those types of things. Like, maybe they can free up Elias Pettersson, but he's got to get back in the lineup first and foremost. And so I'm not totally sure what's going on there. But yeah, to your point, Dave, yes, like, unfortunately, it does feel like new people in charge, but same old on a lot of fronts for the Vancouver Canucks. And so that's where I sort of come back to this idea of, I do think they've got some pieces. I think Braden Coots has had an incredible 6 months, really, when you think of where he's gone from the draft to playing in the NHL to, making the national junior team, where people thought, oh, he's going to be in tough and all that kind of stuff. He just keeps achieving. And so that gives me hope. But, difference maker at the NHL level, I don't think he projects to be that. But absolutely, he can be a valuable piece for what the Canucks have, but it's not happening this year. And I think we all have to temper our expectations. Even if he does make the hockey club out of camp next year, he'll be a 19-year-old trying to find his way in the National Hockey League as a mid-first round draft pick, those generally aren't the guys that explode to be absolute dynamos early in their careers. So in no way am I soured on, some of those young guys, but to me, they just need so many more of them. And I know this isn't an original thought. I just think it's pretty evident now that there just aren't enough pieces in the stable now. And that's why I'm totally on board with trade Kiefer Sherwood before he gets hurt. That's my big concern, just the Canuck way, is that he'll get injured and that'll scuttle whatever plans they've got to deal him. So don't run that risk. And then I would be looking long and hard at peeling away others. And it's unfortunate that both Teddy Bluger and Derek Forbort as pending UFAs, I don't know if either one of those guys is ever going to get back in the lineup this season. And so not that they have big trade value, but they may have no trade value just because they haven't been able to get healthy and stay healthy. And then Evander Kane, very much an acquired taste. And I think he's been underwhelming. He hasn't been as physical as I expected. Hasn't been as productive as I expected. I thought he had a decent road trip, showed some signs of life. But again, I don't think, there's going to be a huge market for him. It only takes one. I know that. But he's played for half the league, it seems. And there's probably a bunch of teams that, don't want that player or that contract or that combination. And so I think it is going to be a limited market for Evander Kane, but I do hope that they can find somebody at the deadline that thinks, hey, veteran presence, some experience, been to a couple of finals, all that kind of stuff, that maybe, you can recoup something off of Evander Kane. But I'm not holding out hope for a giant Evander Kane auction and marketplace. I just don't think that that's going to materialize for this hockey club.
Jeff, last one. We're doing our Christmas wish lists over at CanucksArmy.com. We were going to do ours and anyone else, but I want to give you a chance. What is on your Canucks Christmas wish list? Mine's just an honest rebuild. Just go through the pain. Don't try to accelerate out of this next year or too soon. That's my wish. What's yours?
Well, I have a piece up under that heading at Canucks Army, but it focuses on a lot of what I said earlier, just looking at the scoring wingers and really the struggles of those three veterans in particular. Again, I think this needs I don't hear enough of this out in the marketplace, that Jake DeBrusk has one 5-on-5 goal at Christmas. Just stop and think about that for a sec. This guy goes to the net on the power play, scores the greasy goals with the man advantage, no issues. But 8 of his 9 goals have come on the power play. He has one 5-on-5 goal at Christmas time. It's just hard to wrap your head around that kind of stuff. So the piece that I've written on my Christmas wish list is a return to form for the key veteran wingers. And I include Evander Kane in that as well, hoping to bump up his trade value here in the couple months before the deadline. But overall, I guess as I sit here, as 2005 comes to an end and 2006 represents some sort of hybrid retool new beginning, I hope they win the draft lottery. I just think that could be fundamentally organizationally shape-shifting, something they've never done in 55 years. We know the people that think the Canucks are cursed. I'd love to see them break that curse. I think it would be pretty damn cool to sit there on the edge of our seats as Bill Daly's flipping the cards of the draft lottery. And I think, we're not going to have a lot to look forward to in the second half of the season. 22 of the final 35 at home. Yikes. So yeah, I wish the Vancouver Canucks nothing but lottery luck in 2026.
Jeff, we appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you, your family. Thanks for doing this. Well, I mean, we're going to talk to you before the end of the new year. We're still doing a show next week before the new year, so we'll talk to you there. But Merry Christmas to you and your family, Jeff.
Yeah, and right back at you guys and to all of the Convo viewers and listeners. Always fun coming on with you, usually on Tuesdays. Not always, but most of the time it's on Tuesdays. So Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. And they're back at work on the 27th. And so we'll be back at work then as well. And hey, maybe EP40. Maybe they'll find EP40 under the Christmas tree and have him available for the game against the Sharks on Saturday. So all the best, guys.
Good stuff. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. There he is. Jeff Paterson, the host of Rink Wide Vancouver, contributor at CanucksArmy.com as well. And as he said, the first Canucks Christmas wish list. We're going to be publishing these over the next few days over at CanucksArmy.com. Jeff published the first one earlier today. You can go read it right now, CanucksArmy.com. Speaking of which, another one, and we'll do this for next week. We'll break it down on one of our shows next week, Harm. But I'm counting down the top 10 Canucks news stories of the year. I just went through the back end of Canucks Army and looked at what all of the highest traffic stories were. Like, what did people read about the most? We did number 10 today. It was the Canucks signing Garland and Demko to contract extensions. That was number 10. So we're going to count it down to number 1 in the days leading up to 2026. Just looking back on the top stories of 2025. Always a good time. What's your guess for number 1? Can I get a guess of what you think the number 1 story was?
Got to be something Quinn Hughes trade related, right?
I think so. Let me pull it up. Let me just make sure I have it. Yeah, okay, I've got it. All right. No, it's not. That's number 2. Hughes is number 2. Yeah, guess what number 1? Number 1 news story in the year.
The JT Miller trade?
That's number 3. The trade itself is number 3. That's your hint. That the trade itself is number 3. What happened?
Oh, the feud between Paterson and Miller?
Number 1, Rutherford says Paterson-Miller rift means no good solution to keep the Canucks core together. Because again, even right up until Hughes was traded, every day we were getting people to shout like, Elliot Friedman's making everything up. This is all fake. This is all media driven. And then Rutherford comes out and says, yeah, we have this rift between these two guys. We got to trade them. We got to blow up this core. Anyway, that was so when a guy comes on the record with Rutherford, right? When a guy comes on the record and says something like that, people read about it, as we found out. So hopefully I didn't just ruin the list for everybody, but that's going to be coming out. You can find out what 4 through 9 is over the next.
There's also got to be a Rutherford reference about how at the end of the season he mentioned Quinn wanting to play with his brothers. That's got to be in the top 10 too.
I'm not.
All right.
Yes, it is. It is in there. I'm not saying where. You're not going to ruin this for me, Harm. You're not going to ruin this this series over at Canucks Army. I always look forward to putting it together. It's always really fun. But yeah, you know what? In all seriousness, as we kind of transition to anyone else a little bit here, it was kind of a shock to me. Not a shock, but a reminder. Shocking reminder, I'll say, that the Miller stuff all happened in this calendar year. The Hughes to New Jersey stuff got started by Rutherford at the year-end press conference this calendar year, and that a Hughes trade happened in this calendar year as well. Like, all of this stuff, the Miller trade, everything happening in 2025. My goodness, what a crazy year for Canucks fans.
Well, it's never boring. It's never dull. If they're going to crash and burn, which they have done a lot, they're going to do it in spectacular, making headlines around the league fashion.
All right. Before we get to anyone else, I didn't mention this because we made Jeff wait for so long. We're probably going to run a little overtime, folks. Bear with us. I know people like when we go overtime sometimes. So Jeff was brought to you by Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. You can skip the line and not pay cover on game nights if you're wearing the home team's gear. And of course, there's also the game day specials at Greta, including $3.33 off select food items, $3.33 for select drinks, and more. With the arcade, bar, and street food menu, Greta's a great spot. Make it your spot to hang out and watch the next game. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. All right. Yeah, Walk in the chat. I think he's asking about the list. He said, so there's not a lot of stuff about the actual on ice play, huh? And then he said a lot of drama, and nothing about the actual hockey. I'm not giving away more of the list. But yeah, like the top news stories. I mean, of course, you think people are like, Tom Willander scored his first NHL goal over Jim Rutherford saying, hey, we're going to trade one of our franchise pillars. Like, I don't choose the list. It's just these are the news stories. And again, the JT Miller trade is on there. The Quinn Hughes trade is on there. I don't know if you call that drama. Those are big transactions for the team. But yeah, like, Connor Garland plays in
rounding it out
games.
Rounding it out, the Max Hassan 2-year extension made the cut at number 10.
What's the we got it's all there's actually 3. Anyways, whatever. I'm not spoiling the list. Everyone wants me spoiled.
Because you already spoiled the list. You gave the top 3.
No. CanucksArmy.com. Make sure you read it. Click all the ads, as I like to say. Make sure you check it out, please. All right, let's go to anyone else officially, which is presented by Pacific Toyota Dealers. Hey, speaking of hybrid, the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles, a hybrid you can trust. That's how we should be branding this for this show. A no-compromise approach to electric vehicles that offers the best of both worlds. Whoa, this is sounding like, anyways, okay. Okay. Drive up to 72 kilometers on battery alone, enough to get you from downtown to the rink, the grocery store, and home to recharge. But you might not think that the battery alone is enough. You might be one of those people that says, hey, the battery isn't alone isn't enough. So you then seamlessly transition from electric mode to the gas engine for a combined range of 962 kilometers. That's a lot of kilometers. There's no sacrifices when it comes to horsepower style. No sacrifices. You hear that part? When it comes to horsepower style, with its sleek, low, and wide exterior and sophisticated interior, it's loaded with tech that's actually easy to use. You can plug in to recharge at home or at one of the over 2,000 public charge stations in BC alone. And now you can lease a 2026 Prius plug-in hybrid SE from $109 weekly at 3.99% APR for 64 months with $3,300 down. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. That was a fun ad read because as soon as I said the word hybrid, I lost it. All right. I got a few things that I wanted to bring up. Anyone else? We're doing our Christmas wish list over at Canucks Army. Harm, I already gave you mine. It is just do a rebuild properly, and you can't say the same. You can't just agree with me because I know that's one of your wishes. But what's another Canucks Christmas wish?
Another first round pick. Ideally, moving Kiefer Sherwood as soon as the holiday freeze is over. If you can give me a first round pick for Kiefer Sherwood, that's all the Canucks should want for Christmas, alongside the proper rebuild. Why not, right? Sherwood, with the year he's having, seeing Marchment, who, I mean, how many more goals has Sherwood scored compared to Mason Marchment? I think Marchment's got 5 goals or something.
Yeah.
Where Sherwood's at around 17. Marchment fetched a second round pick plus. So I would love to see the team move proactively on that, because then all of a sudden you own 3 first round picks this year. You create a lineup opportunity for one of your other young wingers to, like in Liam Ogren, have an opportunity further up the lineup. See what he can do with that role when he's playing more than just 10 minutes a night. See what Linus Karlsson can do when he's playing more than 10 minutes a night. And ensure that you don't have a Nils Höglander in the press box every night, that you don't have an Ottawa in the press box every night. So I'd love to see a Kiefer Sherwood trade for a first round pick for Christmas.
I wish I could read what the chat's putting in for their Christmas wish list. One person said practice arena. We'll leave it at that.
I don't know if Santa can get that done by Christmas.
Santa absolutely sweating at the North Pole over real estate prices in Vancouver. All right. Yeah, RP88 said, what's your Christmas wish for the trade deadline? You just kind of outlined it. My big one is don't come in and say, oh, if I told you when I got offered for Kiefer Sherwood, I'd have to run out of here. So we decided to keep him. He's our own rental. We talked about that a couple days ago. Just don't do that. Just please don't do that. You will see me. People think I crash out sometimes. You will see the most generational crash out of all time if the Canucks are not sellers at this trade dedeadline. You will.
I think they will be, but you never fully know.
We thought they were last year too.
We thought they were last year.
You're gonna see a wild crash. I'll tell you that. All right. What else in the chat? Oh yeah, super chat. Excuse me. Jacob's doing a good job. Someone in the chat said Jacob's like the elementary school teacher. Nick said this. Jacob's like the elementary school teacher trying to keep children on the rails before Christmas vacation. Super chat here from Nux for Cup 75. The only example people can give where a full rebuild has not ended with a better team is Buffalo. Almost every other team improved over time. We talked about Buffalo last week. I don't want to rehash everything we said, but like Buffalo kind of tried to be good as well, and they just failed. And then guys asked out, and then they traded Sam Reinhart, and they traded all these guys that went on to do great things at other franchises. Jack Eichel, another one where it's just like they just got in their own way because they're an embarrassing franchise.
Yeah, 100%. Plus, they have the cheapest owner in the league, the worst owner in the league. Like, if you're a Canucks fan and you're dissatisfied with Francesco Aquilini, just know it could be worse. Now, maybe only worse in one other market because the Athletic. I mean, I'm just going off the ownership ranking that James Myrtle did. And the Canucks are 31st. That's all I'm saying. But it can be worse. And it legitimately is because, I mean, the Pigulas hired a guy running their hockey academy. He ran our hockey academy. That means he's qualified to be the GM of our team. At least in Vancouver, they spend on a real GM or at least a real president of hockey operations.
Did Allvin just catch a stray in that rest?
No.
You're cooking, man. Anything else you'd like to say?
No. I
Did
think
you
I said too
accidentally
much.
take some truth serum right before doing this show today? Holy smokes. Good stuff, Harm. Good stuff. All right. Let's see. There's more in the chat that I wanted to get to. Oh yeah, did you see this? Yesterday, the Toronto Maple Leafs fired Mark Savard, and then today Brad Treliving comes out with a big vote of confidence for Craig Berube. Firing Mark Savard just seemed a little like was Mark Savard the problem for this team?
I think he used to run their power play, if memory serves.
I
And
think
the
he
Leafs
still
power
does.
play has been
Well,
awful.
not anymore, but he does. I think he did.
That's the easy move. That's there needed to be a price to pay. And this was the easiest way to make someone pay for the lack of performance without actually making a bigger move.
Once they got rid of Mark Savard, that'll fix Austin Matthews, right?
In all seriousness, though, I think they got to make a full coaching change. And honestly, Brad Treliving, I think his job, I don't think he should feel safe about his job. I don't think he's done a great job since he's
I
taken
agree
over
with
in
you.
Toronto.
Yep.
I mean, look at the Brandon Carlo and the Scott Laughton trades. Look at how much the Leafs gave up for two players that haven't been difference makers.
Yep. And hell, speaking of the Carlo trade, that Gerbrankin kid with the Flyers. My goodness. Last night, he's all over the ice. I literally looked it up last night. And I was like, when did they get this guy? And he was like the focal point of the Carlo trade.
No, he was a throw-in in the
excuse me.
Laughton.
Lawton. Yeah. Sorry, I got them mixed up because we said two names. But yeah, Gerbrankin, like, you gave up that kid basically for nothing. Like, and you're right, he was like the throw-in because there was a first-round pick.
Yeah. And now, mind you, Gerbrankin last night was his best game of the season. Before last night, he hasn't been super noticeable, but
yeah, he's got 6 points in 24 games.
And this is
Let's
why.
be clear.
With Laughton, with Carlo, just seeing how much mid veterans can get you because they play premium positions or because they have name brand value, that should be all the more motivation for the Canucks to sell some of their vets too.
Yeah.
Like they're
It's funny.
non-UFA ones.
Yeah. It's funny because we kind of, I don't know, like, yeah, I agree with you, but we just outlined like all show. It feels like we've just been talking about like, well, they're obviously not going to do that, but it'd be great. Do you think we've talked enough about these struggles? And I know Jeff brought it up, but like DeBrusk, Besser, Garland, do you give them a pass because there's no centers? Like, I don't know.
It's obviously part of the story, but even with that in mind, and Jeff talked about it, 1 5-on-5 goal for Jake DeBrusk in 36 games. Yeah, I can understand that you haven't had the best centers to play with and you're a complimentary winger. You don't have guys to set you up, but 1 5-on-5 goal just isn't good enough. And it'd be a little bit different if he was at least doing other productive things where you're a hound on the forecheck, you're helping drive play, you've maybe been elite defensively. DeBrusk, yeah, he doesn't hurt you actively, but he's also not helping you. And I think that's part of the frustration too, is DeBrusk and Besser, when they're not scoring, they're not doing a whole lot else. They are very quiet. You can some nights not notice them flat out at all. They can seem invisible out there. And it's just the style of player they are. It's part of the concern I had with this forward group heading into the season was you've got a bunch of top six. You've got a bunch of players that are technically top six caliber, but they're on the lower end of that scale where really they're more second liners. And stylistically, you've got a bunch of complementary guys together. Players that are passengers and need actual drivers that unlock the best versions of them. And the Canucks don't have enough of those drivers. So, yeah, part of it is you don't have the drivers to unlock DeBrusk and Besser, but also individually. I mean, after a hot start, Besser's on pace for what now? Around 21, 22 goals. That's
Yes.
underwhelming.
Yeah, I think it's 21 exactly. All right. You want to get to Festivus, airing of grievances?
Sure, I don't exactly know what that is.
I'll help you, okay? So Festivus, you gotta watch it, man. All right. December 23rd, it's Frank Costanza, who's played by Jerry Stiller, right? He has this fake holiday where okay. There's an aluminum pole instead of a Christmas tree. There's the airing of grievances. You have Festivus dinner. Then there's the feats of strength where you have to try to pin the head of the household. So George always had to try to pin his dad. I'm doing a bad job explaining it. You got to watch the episode. It's called The Strike. It's one of the best Seinfeld episodes of all time, in my opinion. But we're going to do the airing of grievances, all right? Which in Seinfeld is an opportunity to tell family members how they've disappointed you over the past year. But in our show, we're not going to say how we've disappointed each other in the past year. Just what part of hockey, what part of the Canucks is disappointing you, and the airing of grievances. The floor is yours. I'll go first, though. I'll go first. I said the floor is yours, and then I take it right back because I know you need to think. You're gonna have to think about it, right? I'll give you an example, okay? Like today, I was listening to this on Daily Faceoff Live. Carter Hutton, Tyler Remchuk, they do a great job. One thing Tyler pointed out was just the cost of hockey equipment. Like sticks going for $500. What are we doing? Like, what are we talking about here? That is crazy. So that was one of them. He just talked about how expensive it is. And, Carter's got a kid right now in hockey, and the cost of putting that kid through the sport, absolutely ridiculous. So that's an example. Okay. Like an airing of grievances, their grievances with the cost of hockey equipment and how expensive the sport is and has become. I'm going to give you my grievance. It's Evander Kane. Do you remember, because I had someone throw this in my face recently, do you remember in the offseason how any criticism of Evander Kane, I was jumping in front of him, taking the bullets and being like, I think he's going to be great. I thought they were going to get a physical player. I thought they were going to get a fast player. And I thought they were going to get a player that was going to put up like 20, 25 goals, bounce back, contract year, and just prove all the doubters wrong. And I was fully on board with the Evander Kane acquisition at the time. And I think that's why I've gone so far in the other direction now, talking about Kane, is he's hurt me, Harm. He's hurt me. I was so, like, my hockey knowledge, it's decent, but it took a big hit. My credibility of, like, predictions, which I'm usually good at, took a big hit when I proclaimed that Evander Kane would be great for the Canucks.
Trying to think of, hasn't the last hour and 3 minutes been an airing of our grievances?
That's true.
Like, I'm trying to think of what else is new. I don't want to keep beating the organization while, like, after an hour and 3 minutes in, we're just like, all right, let's find more things to hound them for.
It's Festivus.
Let's let them get back up before we pound them again.
Okay, sure. There's always next year. We'll take that as your answer, though. Hey, that you already aired your grievances for the past hour.
Yeah.
All right. Someone asked how Askarov's doing. Karn said, speaking of Quad's player evaluation, how's Askarov doing? Is he below 900 yet? Oh, 902. He's getting pretty close there. 902, Harv, getting pretty close.
Well, okay.
There.
This is part of the issue too. League average save percentage is 898. So
he's the second coming. What are you talking about? He's Dominic Hasek. That's what you were saying at the start of the year.
Well, that's not what I said. And secondly, the Sharks are still one of the worst defensive teams in the NHL, putting up a save percentage that's 4 points above league average on, put it this way, 900 sounds like a low bar because it was a low bar, let's say 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. But 900 is actually a pretty high bar when it comes to a rookie goalie playing on one of the worst defensive teams in the NHL.
Oh my gosh, Jacob, you wrote everything down. Did Harm say any of that when he made this bet with me? I don't remember that.
Yeah, a little bit, but also like we did set it at 900. And I think
last I checked, Jesper Wallstedt has a 933.
Yeah, he plays on a Stanley Cup contender. He has the best blue line in the NHL. Do you want me to 1 to 6? Let's 1 to 6 go through Minnesota's blue line versus San Jose's blue line. All right, this is what a healthy healthy wild blue line looks like, right? Quinn Hughes, Brock
Okay,
Faber,
Quinn's been there
Jonas
for 4 games.
Brodin,
Come on, you can't.
Jared Spurgeon, Jake Middleton, Zach Bogosian. Okay.
How many starts has Walston had with Hughes in front of him? Like 2, 3?
Well, we've got more than half the season left,
Okay,
so
okay.
he's got a lot more coming.
I don't think he's going to rise from a 933 harm.
And then 1-6 for the San Jose Sharks: Dmitry Orlov, John Klingberg, Mario Ferraro, Shakir Moukmadulin, Sam Dickinson, and Nick Leddy. Like, come on. The Sharks employ Ryan Reeves as an everyday NHL player. Do I need to say more?
Jacob jumped in and said that Sharks defense would have been great in 2019. Yeah, Nick Leddy holding it down on the third pair. Embarrassment of riches.
They're fun offensively though. They're still they got a new kid, Chernyshov, who's been playing with Celebrini. That guy, high second round pick a couple of years ago, 6'3", speed and skill, drives the net. But that's the point, right? Is the Sharks have some fun offensive pieces. Nobody on that team knows how to play defense. Leaving my poor boy Askarov out to dry.
This Chernyshov kid. Oh, okay. Wow.
He's good,
All
man.
right.
Yeah, he ripped up the O last year.
Yep.
Off to a great start. In the AHL, got called up because Will Smith's been out lately, and I watched the Sharks Stars game last Thursday. That guy's going to be a player. They've added another. That's the point, right? Canucks are chasing a team like the Sharks in terms of the future. And for San Jose, it's not just, all right, we got Macklin Celebrini. We also got Will Smith. We got William Eklund. You got Chernyshov arriving. You're not just chasing the teams that are top of the league today. You're going to have to build a young core that can contend with San Jose, who already has not just a superstar, but other exciting young players coming too.
And I'll jump in because they got Chernyshov in the second round the same year they got Celebrini, right? So when you bought him out, not only do you get a top 3 pick, but then you get a top 3 pick in the second round as well, where like every year, inevitably, there's going to be a really good impact player or 2 or 3 in the second round. So if you bought him out, it gives you your best opportunity to get that guy as well. And as Harman said, that's how you actually build a contender, right? You get your like franchise defining player first overall in the first round, and then you get a really good other piece at 33 overall in the second round. And that's what San Jose was able to do in 2024.
Let's end it on this, boys. This is a comment from Chris Favel in the chat. Sorry if I mispronounced that. He said, if you want to change the Canucks culture, you need to trade the vets and get rid of that country club attitude. It's not the younger players' fault. Think about all these guys we're talking about. Of like, we didn't even mention that Max Sassone scored again last night. The bottom 6 guys looking great. I'm on board with that. Something's rotten. New grievance. New airing of grievances. All right, here we go. Colin Whitehead.
Yesterday, you wanted to tell me how many points they were out of a playoff spot.
Look, it wasn't just Patrik Allvin that was buying what the Canucks were selling over that 4-game win streak, all right? Colin Whitehead with the super chat, $5 super chat, donation to the BC Mental Health Foundation. We appreciate it. He said, would you guys trade DeBrusk for Kent Johnson? That's an interesting one. I also was looking at Columbus, and I don't know if that one makes a ton of sense for the Blue Jackets, but when you looked at a guy like Kiefer Sherwood and maybe packaging something with Kiefer Sherwood, we at least had that conversation last week. We really like Kent Johnson, but it's almost hard to now answer these questions when you don't quite know what the Canucks direction is, right? Like we were saying, no, don't trade for Kent Johnson because he's in his early mid-20s when he's going to be really, really good for you. And he's already like 21 years old, right? So that's the conversation we had last week is, he doesn't quite line up with the window that we're looking at. Like we'd rather, instead of trading Kiefer Sherwood for Kent Johnson or Jake DeBrusk for Kent Johnson or whoever, or acquiring Kent Johnson, we would trade for a first-round pick or an 18-year-old prospect who might have a higher ceiling than Kent Johnson. But now it's kind of different because now we don't quite, and I mean, I guess we do know what their direction is to some extent, at least. And maybe Kent Johnson's a move that makes sense for them now.
Well, we should clarify though, because the original question when we said no to Kent Johnson was Kiefer Sherwood and Minnesota's first round pick. And to me, the
true.
part that made me say no was I don't want to include the Minnesota first round pick.
Yeah.
If it was just straight Kiefer Sherwood for Kent Johnson, which I don't think the Blue Jackets would do, especially now that they've added Mason Marchment.
Yeah.
I would pull the trigger on that, of course. If you're trading an older guy like a DeBrusk for a Kent Johnson, yeah, I'll still do that,
Sure.
especially because Johnson, would he potentially breaking out and being an impact player right away maybe make it difficult for you to, let's say, tank this season? Sure.
Yeah.
However, it's an opportunity similar to the Trevor Zegras one where maybe you're able to land a true difference maker at a pretty cheap cost. And to me, I'll pounce on that opportunity so long as I'm not having to give up a first round pick.
Sure.
Or one of my coveted young assets. If I have to trade older guys to acquire Kent Johnson, I'll do that all day long.
I should also mention he's 23 years old, not 21. So 23-year-old Kent Johnson. I keep coming back to what I was just saying about, what you were just saying about the timeline, right? And what is your best outcome? And again, like the JT Miller trade worked out really good for the Canucks. They got a player who was, I think, what was he, 26, 27 when they acquired him. I'm off with ages today. I might be totally wrong about that, but you got a really good outcome from the JT Miller trade, and it still wasn't enough. Like that's just, I think that's more my point, but I'd also think about just what else can you get for DeBrusk? Like, okay, if it's DeBrusk or Kent Johnson, yeah, that's a great trade. But if it's DeBrusk for a first round pick, like, do you think about that at least? Or do you say, no, go get Kent Johnson?
I feel more confident in Johnson being a difference maker than a late first round pick.
Fair enough.
We've already seen proof of concept, right? And it's not just like Kent Johnson was a 5th overall pick, and not just, he's been a 5th overall pick, and since then he hasn't been able to figure it out in the NHL. We're talking about a player that last year had 24 goals and 57 points in less than 70 NHL games. And previous to that, as a rookie, he scored 40 NHL points. So this isn't a reclamation project for a Lucas Reichel or, I don't know, like a Derek Pouliot back in the day. It is a lot more along the lines of a Zegras type opportunity for me. And yeah, I would still, I would probably take Johnson over the first round pick. Again, the reason I initially said no when we had this conversation, let's say a week and a half ago, is because the question was Sherwood and Minnesota's first round pick. And if you think Sherwood on his own is worth a first round pick and you're adding the mini pick on top of that, essentially you're paying 2 first round picks for Kent Johnson. And that's where the valuation didn't make sense to me.
Yep. Very fair. Very fair. All right. Let's close it out there. I think I'm good. Yeah, we'll close it out there. It's Christmas. Let's get to our Christmas vacation. Jacob, when's our next show? The 27th, right?
Well, the 27th is Saturday.
Oh, so, good. Okay, so not the 27th.
No,
29th?
we're coming back on the 29th. So we're taking the Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day off. Now, if something were to happen,
don't put that out there. Everyone knows we're going to do an emergency show.
Well,
don't put that out there.
The roster freeze goes through Boxing Day, if I'm not mistaken. So the emergency would have to happen on the Saturday, the 27th, before they come back to play against the San Jose Sharks. So if something were to happen, maybe we'll see you then. But otherwise, we're expecting to be back 29th. So that is next Monday. We are going to be off next Thursday. That is New Year's Day. So only 4 shows next week. Back to a full schedule starting on January 5th.
Perfect. I'll write all that down. Thanks, Jacob. All right. Merry Christmas to you guys. Harm, Jacob, Merry Christmas to you guys and to the chat as well. We appreciate all of you checking out the show. Merry Christmas to you and your families as well. Final thoughts from either of you?
No, Merry Christmas.
All right.
I should clarify, no comma Merry Christmas. It almost sounded like no Merry Christmas.
Not while the Canucks are hybrid retooling. It's not. Okay. Bet365 bet of the day. Jacob, did you write down what I did yesterday?
Yeah, it was a fun one. Remember, you took over half a rushing yard for Phillip Rivers.
That didn't happen, did it?
He had a good game, threw the ball pretty well for a 44-year-old who hasn't played in 5 years, but no, he did not pick up a rushing yard.
All right. We're going back to the hockey tonight. Why? Okay, I don't know. Okay. All right. Home underdogs. The Chicago Blackhawks are taking on the Philadelphia Flyers tonight. Flyers are probably riding high, all pumped. Oh, we just beat the Canucks. Rick Tocchet must be happy. Boys, take the night off. Start thinking about Christmas, all that sort of stuff. We're taking Chicago Blackhawks money line. All right. They are the
Bedard.
Yeah, that's right. They're the dude. Hey, it's not one player that makes the team harm. Is Frank Nazar hurt as well, actually?
It's almost like there's a reason they're home underdogs against a team playing back with travel.
He's
out a month.
Usually there's a reason for that, Quads. The odds makers don't want to lose money.
Okay, you're right. You guys are right. We're gonna turn this into a parlay. Ilya Mikheyev anytime goal.
Their first line center projected according to Daily Faceoff is Ryan Green, and then your boy Ryan Donato.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I didn't know we had a 30 goal scorer suiting up here. Hang on a sec. Let me build out a parlay here. Let me build a parlay real quick. Okay, parlay to ring in the new Christmas. I was almost saying New Year, but we're doing a show. All right, hang on. I gotta build this out.
I can't wait to see what this monstrosity is.
All right, so we got Blackhawks money line. Okay, then we're going player, anytime goal scorer. It won't let me take Mikheyev. Oh yeah, it will. Mikheyev scored 2 goals in his last game. So anytime goal scorer Ilya Mikheyev, that alone brings it up to a plus 650 parlay. And then Tyler Bertuzzi, give me Tyler Bertuzzi as well. That brings it to plus 1700. We're doing that 3-leg parlay, plus 1700 odds. Blackhawks money line, Ilya Mikheyev score a goal, Tyler Bertuzzi to score a goal. You can get that or something else if you'd like over at Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get it on the game. Use the code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. All right. We'll wrap it up there. Merry Christmas, everyone. For my co-host Harmon Dial and our technical producer Jacob Lazar, my name is David Riley. Thanks so much to the episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.